Hey, it's Cara. Welcome to Building Your Bank podcast. I'm your personal finance coach, and I'll be giving you practical steps you can take to walk into your financial freedom.
A lot of us are involved in the spirit of poverty and don't even know it, right? So grandma put her money under the mattress. Come on. So since grandma put her money under the mattress and grandma found catfish on Fridays, it worked for her. Mm-hmm. Grandma said if you put it under the mattress, can't nobody come and get it. God forbid you have a house fire. The money's not fireproof, so there's your home life savings. Let it go. Let it go.
Hey everybody, this is episode 2 of Building Your Bank. I am back, your personal finance coach, Cara Ivy, and I am excited today because I have a special guest. I've been knowing this man for a very long time now, and he's one of the biggest, I would say, influences that has helped me in my journey and being an encouraging partner and friend, and above all else, my husband. So, without further ado, Antoine, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you, honey, for the warm welcome and introduction.
Of course.
Pretty excited to be able to participate and to give my perspective of, the Ivy League and everything that's going on with it. So, thank you.
Thanks. All right, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. The reason why I wanted to have you join in today and be a part of this whole podcast adventure is because with the Building Your Bank, a lot of people are either considering getting married, in serious relationships, already married, and finance and money is one of the biggest issues, or can be one of the biggest issues to affect a marriage. I know that we share similar backgrounds, but our money stories are somewhat different as far as what we learned about money, how we learned about saving, how we got into this whole thing, and even how our paths came together. So I really want to focus on you talking about where your introduction of money came from and how it was getting with your girl, because that was interesting. And then just kind of like where we are now. So give us some background, if you will, Antoine, on the initial introduction that you had to money.
Well, I'll start by saying that I love money, by the way, I must say. I think plays an integral part into everyday life. Obviously, it's not everything, but it's a very important aspect in a marriage. But I was introduced to money at an early age, actually, by my dad. I remember like it was yesterday. I'd say I was around 5 or 6. It was New Year's Eve. We were at like a family gathering, and just before midnight, my dad, he put a dollar bill in my pocket and said, I want you to remember this for the rest of your life. He said, going into the new year with money in your pocket. And at that age, I'm like, oh man, I'm rich. It's a dollar. Didn't really care. Didn't really, at that point in time, it didn't really hit home. Mm-hmm. I just knew that, hey, my dad put a dollar in my pocket.
Right.
And then from there, as I got older and I started learning the importance of, working and providing and things like that, it really has stuck with me. And it's something that, we'll probably talk about it, in the future, on a few, down the road, but it's something I'll pass along to my kids, and we've started doing that with our oldest child. But that's something we'll talk about later. But that's how I was introduced to money.
Okay.
Kind of in a nutshell.
Okay, sweet. So, we went to high school together, but we did not start dating until we got to college. And after that, we have been running off into the sunset since 2005-ish. Mm-hmm. Once we got together and we started making decisions as far as like financial decisions together, do you feel like that was a difficult merger? Because essentially we were bringing our lives, like what you knew, what you were taught, how you view money, and you said you love money, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that the love of money is the root of all evil. But never did you ever go and do anything that was illegal, unethical, or whatnot to provide for your family. So while you appreciate it, you still have like standards, morals, values, and God comes before all this whole money spending stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's just clarify that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, when I say I love money, I do. But at the same time, like how you broke it down, it's deeper than just loving money. When you grow up and you work hard for, the money that you receive, there's a different meaning behind it. So I don't want to construe the meaning of really loving money. It's not everything. But when you work hard and you bust your butt for it,
you appreciate it. You have a certain level of appreciation.
Exactly.
You value the things that you purchase, so you're not just out here just willy nilly, spending all your stuff crazy. Okay, cool. So when we met, I was 17, you were 19. We didn't really. I was in college struggling, working a few jobs, braiding hair, and you were scholarship.
Yeah.
Football, track, academic. I was more academic and then had to fill that gap in between. So I think that's, to me, is my initial, or where for me, when it comes to us, our initial introduction for money, because of the things that I had to do to get it and the things that you had to do. It was almost like, here we are in this space looking to get an education at this private university, and the way that you were able to pay for it allowed you, while you did work very hard, going to practice and, all that, playing in those games. I'm not taking anything away from your college career.
Don't talk down on it. No.
I had to work a different type of way to get the same results. So, okay, we graduate. We have Kaylin. We move in together. And I think that is where it was like, dun, 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 dun.
Absolutely.
Because here we are now having two different backgrounds, because you said your dad told you as a child, don't ever go, for example, go into the new year without $1 in the pocket. My parents, we were thinking about that, right? So there were certain things you were thinking about as far as making sure that you had enough to provide, making sure that you were in a position to take care of your child, now your girl. And I was just more so like aware of what I needed to do, but in a sense trying to still figure out how to get it done. So we had Kaylin, and I don't know that we actually had a financial plan when we had her.
I don't think we did.
Not together.
No.
We may have both had our own separate idea of what we wanted to do with our money, but we didn't come together and say like, okay, this is what we're going to do for this child to make sure that she's okay, until like later on down the line.
Yeah, because I was, growing up with the whole money aspect of things, I was always like, my biggest fear always was to not be able to provide. So it didn't take until a few years, and I believe until our marriage, to where we sat down to come up, with kind of a financial plan. That was after Kaylin was born, right? Because I've always been this person. Okay, you tell me how much, and then I make sure it happens. That's just kind of was my upbringing, and not to say that that works well for everyone, because within a marriage there has to be a lot of transparency there, know, and I think that played a big part, for me to be able to, because I've gone through situations to where after college I was fortunate enough to not have to break the bank in college to pay for education. And one of the toughest decisions that I made, this was going into my freshman year of college. I was trying to decide where I wanted to go. I had opportunities to where I could have gone to some bigger schools and paid more out of pocket, or gone somewhere where it was almost completely totally free. So that was kind of my thinking at a younger age of making that decision. This may not be the sexiest pick, but in the long run, it was probably the best for me from a financial standpoint. That's what I did, and I think that's kind of transitioned into our everyday life as far as the whole financial situation. So
I like that. And then meanwhile, back at the ranch, I'm just trying to go to college.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, $40,000 of student loans later, here we are. So we have like the decisions that we've made in our early lives have affected and poured over into our financially have poured over into our marriage.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think that, you know, in love is a beautiful thing, and, you know, God makes a way out of no way all the time, perform miracles, but those are things to also consider.
Absolutely.
When we sat down, we did not have a financial plan when we initially got married. We were just like, oh, we so in love, and we just gonna figure it out.
we were just going.
We scratching and surviving. We just loving each other, and but love, you know, the landlord was still looking at the apartment for the rent, and love was not going to cash that check. So
Kaylin got bigger.
right.
Diaper prices got more expensive.
Right.
Shoes got more expensive
went to
as she got
we
older.
did a lot of stuff. All right, so I guess my question is, if we could take 2 steps back and we could not necessarily change our walk, but if there's some things that we could have done as far as conversations we could have held, steps that we could have taken at the very beginning of our marriage, what do you think would have put us in a position where we could have started off earlier and a lot stronger financially?
I think, like, looking back now, you know, it's easy to say, oh, I could have done this different, but we were more, I think, not having that plan at first, and then kind of when a situation presented itself, reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we would have kind of, like you said, backtracked a little bit more proactive, and I think what opened my eyes, and I think this happened to both of us, was that first time I was ever laid off, and I'm like, this is real. I wasn't expecting it. We had a major layoff for the whole our Eastern division, and it's like, from that day on, I was like, all right, not that, you know, I wasn't in a situation to be okay temporarily for, you know, during that time, but it was an eye opener, like, oh, this is real.
Right.
And I'm like, I remember calling you, and I'm like, hey, guess what? that meeting that they said we were having,
I remember.
I survived the first wave, but there's some more cuts coming. And you're like, oh, what's going on? And then I think a few weeks later, I'm like, hey, yeah, it was real. It was real. They couldn't save everybody. So I think that day on, it really kind of hit home, and I'm like, all right, tomorrow's not promised, you know.
And neither
God
your
could
job.
be here, right? Neither. So I'm like, man, if this does happen, we have to set something up to where we're gonna be straight, you know. So, and I think from that day on, that kind of triggered, you know, this within us. We sat down, we talked about it, and we put a plan together, and we've been kind of sticking to it. Not to say that, hey, you put a plan together, it's gonna work 100%. I mean, you have to, you know, alter it a little bit, fine tune it.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
So it's safe to say that we should have, or could have, had more of, because when you did get laid off, we were fine as it relates to bills, and it worked out because we were able to both find employment, gainful employment. But that doesn't work for everybody.
No.
Right? So it's safe to say that as soon as you're able to start saving. And it's also safe to say, or a good thing to say, have these conversations with people who you plan to build with, right? Like, I think one of the coolest things about us being together was that we shared a lot of the same